Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 330 to Go High School Football Show. On the record as we recap the Massillon and McKinley game, our Week 10 game of the week. Joining me is not Matt Magaw. Matt may be joining us here at some point, but joining me is the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Hank Forrester. Hank, welcome into the program, sir.
I mean, that's an intro. We'll call that's an intro. I don't want to go with legend. I'm not a legend. I'm just.
You're a legend in your own mind, right?
Hey, back to the beginning. It's yes. Hank and Roddy. It's Hank and Roddy.
Hank and Roddy. Hank and Roddy back at it again. So yeah, we had a football game on Saturday at 2:00 at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. The game went about as well as folks thought it would. Massillon wins the game 35-0. However, that's not what everybody's talking about. Everybody is talking about what happened after the game, during the handshake line and the 30-plus penalties in the game that were mostly unsportsmanlike conduct and different things. I was there as a fan. I was in the stands with my 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old son. And that was something I can't believe I had to experience.
Well, okay, so let's back that up. All right.
Yeah.
You were there, and you know, I told you I'm DJing a wedding. What day was this? This was
Saturday. Yep.
I was in
all
Pennsylvania.
Your days run together. I know.
I was in Pennsylvania for that one. All right. So I messaged you in the morning. I knew you. We saw some good pictures from you, and I'm like, listen, man, can you just report on this when it's done? Da, da, da. So you put the post up, right? And in your initial verbiage, you said the game was ended a little bit prematurely and such. Talk us through that, because immediately, like, a bunch of people were like questioning you and calling that out. So
what happened?
Talk us through that.
So there were a bunch of penalties towards the end of the game. There was roughly about 4 minutes and change left in the game. In high school football, when you're up by 30 or more points, there's a running clock. The only time that clock stops is for an injury, a timeout, or for penalties. However, they didn't stop the clock. They continued to run it as they discussed on the field. All the officials were discussing the penalties. Massillon had lined up in victory formation. They had just gotten the ball back after a fumble by Canton McKinley tailback Nino Hill, who then was assessed, I believe, 2 penalties after he fumbled. There was a little bit of a scrum on the ground. Obviously, when there's a fumble, things happen in those piles. We know that. There's things that they don't show you on television. But obviously, something happened in that pile. Nino Hill was very irate. Some Massillon players were beginning to realize that the end is near. They're celebrating. As Massillon gets into victory formation, they snap the ball. He takes a knee. There's still about a minute left. You then hear the head official turn on his microphone, wave his hands, and go, "That's the game."
All right. So were there no timeouts?
There was nothing. No. All
right. So at that point, obviously, everything's chippy. They already know the clock's going to run out anyway. There's no timeouts. It's like, Why do the other downs? Boom, we're done. Okay, so that makes sense.
The officials then run off the field. They're done. As soon as they said, this is the game, they sprint and they go off the field.
And in that scenario, I'm sure that they were running.
Well, they were moving. They were moving very briskly.
Moving briskly to get the hell out of Dodge.
Exactly.
Right? So, all right. There's so much to unpack here, and I mean, I took hold on. Let me. This thing, I'm going to go ahead and share this. How do I share this? I'm going to go to share. I want to share it to the. How do we share it to the high school football show page thing? I'm going to try that right now.
I think you have to. Are you sharing our?
We'll do it later. Okay. All right.
We'll do it later.
Well, yeah, we'll do it live. All right.
We'll do it live.
So here's the thing. There's so much to unpack here. There's so much to unpack. And when I initially saw your report, again, we're about to be joined by the third guy.
I don't know yet.
I saw the screen just get wide all of a sudden.
Yeah, I keep tinkering with a couple of things. So there
All
we
right.
go. We'll put it back to that.
So there's so much to unpack, and I see the post come in, and then I see like some of the comments start coming in. Okay. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm not gonna say anything. And again, I'm in the middle of my wedding, but then I had like I'm in the middle of cocktail hour, and I'm not, nothing's going on. So I'm like, you know what? So I start reading comments again, and I'm like, I couldn't help myself. I have to comment because people were going after the whole aspect of the fight that took place after the game, and they're losing their freaking marbles over a fight that took place, a skirmish. It was a scuffle. I'll call it a scuffle. All right.
You can call it a scuffle. I called it a melee because that's exactly what it was.
Melee, scuffle. But the point is, it's a fight that took place after a football game. Okay.
Right.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen a fight take place after a football game?
That actually was the first time.
You weren't. I'm not saying in person. I'm saying that you've heard of.
There's been a few.
Okay. Well, I am here to tell you that there is a fight that takes place every single weekend at either the high school, professional, or college level on a football field every single weekend. And it's been like that for the last 60 years. Okay. Now, if you go back and you look, like literally the Hoban and St. V rivalry was stopped because of the amount of fighting that was taking place after the games. This was back in what, the 80s or 90s? I can't remember when that happened. I think it was the late 80s. Okay?
I think it was late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s, because I remember my whole 4 years, we did not play St. V in football. All right. And that was 88 through 92. Right. And it was because there were so many fights that took place in the stands, in the parking lot, everywhere after the game. All right. So is it okay? No, it's not okay. By me taking the stance that I took and being a hardliner on just being aware of the situations, am I justifying fighting? The answer is no. Mike, I've been kicked out of 3 games in my life. I've been kicked out of 3 games as a soccer player. Okay. I'm a team captain at Ashland University, and we're playing Oberlin, right? The entire stands are all smoking weed. Like you can see it all coming up from the stands, and you can smell it, and they're heckling us the whole game. And this one player, we're literally beating them 4-0. There's like 10 minutes left to go in the game, and one of their guys deliberately takes out one of our guys. So as captain, I responded in kind. Okay. I was run out of that game. I was ejected. And then in the line, we had a scuffle. So in other words, the game's over. You go to do the whole handshake thing. And now we're pushing and shoving, and there's a scuffle, right? Okay. Same thing, twice in indoor, same situation. Okay. Point being, I have been involved in on-field fights as a player, right? Now, obviously, it's not football, it's soccer, but at the same time, football is a much more, I don't want to say more intense than soccer, but you got so many more people. You got what, 50 players, 20 backups that are like freshmen and JV people that are there to like be up on the sidelines because they want to be a part of it. So now you got like 75 players. You got a coaching staff of anywhere between what, 5 to 15 coaches? How many coaches are there?
In a football game, there's a lot because you have you'll have your main coaches, and then you usually have assistants, like whether they're graduate assistants or whatever. So there's probably, I would say 15 is probably a good guess. I think 15 for both.
Because you got head coach, assistant coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. That's 5 alone, just by that. And then they all have their own assistants. That's 10, right?
Right.
And I mean, so then you got the training staff, which is what, 5 to 10 people, right?
Right.
So literally you probably have anywhere between 100 to 150 people on a sideline for a football game. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So now all of a sudden, these kids, specifically, let's talk about this rivalry. The moment that these kids are born, a football is put in their crib. They're literally given a football in the hospital, and it's put in their crib, and it either says Massillon Tigers or McKinley Bulldogs. It's one or the other. They literally are given a football, okay, based on where they're born. So from the moment that they are born, they are taught to What's the word we want to use here? I don't want to say hate.
It's not. I think it's strong dislike, disdain. Maybe. I mean, it is. They're separated by 8 miles, and obviously they've been playing this game since 1894.
The birth of football took place in Ohio, literally in our area code, in their cities.
Yeah.
The birth of football, right?
Yeah.
So they have been raised on the culture of football, and they've been raised to not like each other. And people are asking who's to blame. Okay. The answer is yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Parents, coaches, community, players, everyone. Okay. Now the coaches I will put less blame on, because people are like blaming the coaches. I'm like, wait. You can't blame the coaches for a fight. Okay. The coaches create the culture, and that is they want to establish winning programs, and it's beat that team no matter what. Right. It's beat that team no matter what. But at the same time, you got everyone around. So, I mean, think about this. Massillon McKinley is one of the only games in Ohio where old men go to that game to watch that have never had a kid in the program, or don't have kids in the program currently, or don't even have kids.
Yeah, they go because they're a football fan.
They're a football fan. They go to watch Massillon McKinley. Okay. You ready for this? Here's the text I got. This is from one of my friends. He was at the game. He was probably sitting a couple rows behind you. Okay. This is a text he sent me today. Doop, doop, doop. And we will keep his name. We will keep his name off the record. Okay.
Yeah.
He said he's been going to this game probably his whole life. Again, he is Exhibit A. He is a man that grew up in the Canton and Massillon area, and he goes to this game to watch football because he's a football fan. He said, this was probably my last Massillon and McKinley game that I'll ever attend. There were all kinds of drunk people in the parking lots. There was fighting between both teams. There was fighting between Massillon and McKinley fans all over the place. He said McKinley was fighting. McKinley fans were fighting McKinley fans, and McKinley fans were spitting on Massillon kids as they were leaving the field. He said he saw people brandishing guns, and he said the environment was absolutely crazy.
Guess what? Being someone in the stands, I can agree to everything that he said.
So now we enter a whole different discussion topic. Okay. Are there going to be scuffles in an environment of players that are playing one of the most aggressive and violent games on the planet, that are trained to, I'll use the word destroy. I'll use it in a colloquialism kind of usage. Okay. You are literally trained in the game of football to win the what's it called? Oklahoma drills, right?
Yeah.
Your job is to win your Oklahoma drill. Your job is to win your one-on-one battle. You're that offensive lineman. You're that defensive lineman. You are to beat that man one-on-one individually. And if all 11 players do that individually on the field at the same time, those are the teams that win that game, right? But the point is, every single one of those interactions is a mini car crash that's happening like every 30 seconds. That's the way it's been described at the collegiate and pro levels for decades. Okay. Men are so big, so fast, and so strong. It is a violent sport. Okay. So now adrenaline gets going. You're literally getting your entire ass, like every part of your ass is getting kicked. And you've been raised your whole life to beat that other team. And now here you are as a senior, and you're getting crushed. Of course, emotions are going to bubble over, right? So it happens on the field, but then what else happens? You see all the additional bad behavior in the stands that's now projecting from what's happening in that situation. And it just compounds itself, right? So there are so many ways to unpack this. And I tried to do it in as nice a way possible on our feed timeline over the course of the weekend, and I got a lot of pushback. But I am I will triple and quadruple down on the things that I've said and the things I'm saying right now. This is a violent game. It always has been, and they have worked very hard to mitigate the awful injuries out of the game, right? They've tried, they're working on it, as far as concussions, as far as the horrible knee injuries, as far as the back injuries, as far as all of the things that can happen in the game of football. But at the end of the day, it's still people hitting each other at top speed.
Yeah.
So Mike, I'm sorry. I'm very fired up about this topic. I've been talking too much. I'm gonna hang up and listen.
Well,
Go.
you're not going to hang up. Just you're going to sit there for a minute. That's fine. Here's the problem. Here's the problem that I have. And I said this on Saturday. I had called Moon Man. I had called Magaw because I couldn't process everything that was going on in such a fast amount of time. So I'm sitting in the stands with my almost 10-year-old son. That was his very first high school football game that he got to watch with me. I took him because we talked about the rivalry, and he's like, Dad, I want to go. I'm like, okay, great. We'll go. Perfect. This is going to be great. For those that don't know, on my other job, I work for Q92 Sports out of Alliance, Ohio. And I got to be on the sideline as a field reporter for that Massillon-McKinley game last year that was in Massillon. I was on McKinley sideline. And didn't see any of that from being on the field. Yes, there was some tempers flared. There were some penalties, but it wasn't to the extreme that it was of this year. Usually when players commit multiple unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, usually it's 2, and then you're disqualified from the contest. If I'm not mistaken, there were several on both teams that didn't get ejected. So
you're saying players got
multiple, yeah. So in high school football, or in any sport, if you get 2 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties, you're disqualified.
So now, so are we now bringing up an officiating issue as well?
I do think that the officials did not have complete control of that game. A lot of penalties. I mean, over 300 or over 30 penalties combined, probably close to 400 or 500 yards. They didn't have total control. You could tell from watching the game. Yes, it's a blowout in one aspect. But as an official, which I'm not an official, and I think officials have probably one of the hardest jobs in America, but you could see, like when a volcano is getting ready to erupt, there are warning signs, and you could see them in this football game. And as the officiating crew, I was surprised that they didn't take complete control of this game. Send players off, send them to the sideline, talk to these coaches and say, hey, listen, we're not doing this today. We're not. If you can't keep your emotions in check, stay on the sideline. There's where the coaches come into play. They do a phenomenal job of teaching these kids about sportsmanship and about honor and about playing the game the right way. What we saw on Saturday probably wasn't all of that. You have that melee completely break down, which my other problem was, why were the teams at midfield shaking hands? With all of this going on, obviously Massillon had won the game. They won the bell, that it stayed in their possession for the 8th straight year. Take the bell, go to your locker room, and celebrate. There's no reason to celebrate on the field, especially with the volatile situation at hand, especially with tempers being what they were. Massillon, take the bell, go to your locker room, celebrate. McKinley, lick your wounds, go back to your locker room, live to fight another day, especially when you have playoffs that begin this week, Friday night. Both Massillon and McKinley both have a home playoff game.
Well, so one of the things that I've highly criticized in all of sports is sharing the same tunnel.
They don't at Hall of Fame. They don't.
Okay. To go to the locker room.
McKinley's on the far left side of the end zone. Massillon was on probably the 20-yard line. They have to go through the tunnel which obviously McKinley's fans are seated there, that's where you run into the problem of the rumors of spitting on players and the throwing of drinks and food, racial slurs, vulgar language, all the stuff that you hear.
We had racial comments on our post.
Yeah.
Like
it's an unfortunate thing.
Now, mind you, again, I'm in PA,
Yeah.
and Jess like goes to monitor it, and like we had in our inbox, like, oh my God, I can't believe somebody just said this, and they send us the screenshots, and I'm looking at it, I'm like what would possess somebody to say that publicly on social media about a kid?
Yeah,
I
get it. So my thing was, they should have sent both teams off. Let the coaches meet at midfield, shake hands, do the sportsmanship thing, and then go deal with your teams in the locker room. The moment, like the handshake line started solid. If you look, there's been multiple media outlets that have posted video of the handshake line on Twitter. HBC, Q92, I think Canton Repository. There were several that were there on the field, and you watch it, and at first it's great. You even hear at the very beginning, you hear a Massillon and a McKinley player saying, "Hey, bro, I love you. I love you too, bro." Like, you heard that. And then you go a little bit further in the line, and then there's an absolute epic meltdown. It's like the Malice in the Palace all over again. And like, you can't have that.
I'm not laughing.
You can't like, as a fan.
It's not funny.
So not only as a fan, but like,
you said Malice in the Palace.
I know. That's what it reminded me of.
Hey. Well, how? Okay, you ready? Here's a hard question.
Sure.
What is our role in this? And when I say our, I'm referring to media. Is it possible that we overhype these games to a point where it puts a thing in their brain?
I think a little bit of it. I think, I mean, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember the last time Michigan and Ohio State had a fight like that. I know there's been players. I know Charles Woodson and David Boston got into their big fight on the field. But as a whole, I don't remember the last time like you had fights going on every end of the field. And
I think it was, honestly, I think it was in the Cooper years, because that's what those teams were known for.
Right.
And that's what,
but that's then
Cooper was known to not have control of his program, right?
Well,
I mean,
but this now is, but you fast forward to now, I think media plays a part in it. We want to see these games.
You guys really hype this game. I hype this game. Our network hype this game. Everybody else around the entire planet hype this game. It's about what, and again, it goes back to the crib. You're given that football. Your entire life playing football as a peewee, then to get to the middle school level, and then to get to the high school level, and here you are on the Massillon Tigers, and you are on the McKinley Bulldogs, and you are now playing against each other, and you're representing each other, and it's an entire life of football that you've grown up, and now here's that moment, and then you're a senior, and you're getting demolished by the other team. And like, how does that, what mentally goes on there, right?
I will say this, if for those that haven't seen it yet, Coach Antonio Hall met with the media after the game on the field. Q92 was there, Canton Repository was there, HBC was there. I'm sure there were a couple others that I'm forgetting. And the video was posted of the post-game interview with Coach Antonio Hall, and I applaud Antonio Hall taking ownership, not making excuses, not putting blame on Massillon or Coach Nate Moore. He took complete and total ownership of what his team did on that field. He said that they were undisciplined. They acted the way that they acted. And now guess what? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. There may be suspensions. We don't know what's going to happen with the Ohio High School Athletic Association, if they'll step in after seeing the video, after hearing everything. I would assume if you go back and look at some of the film, you can clearly see some jersey numbers and some of those jersey numbers doing things that disrespect the game of football. And at that time, I think you're going to see these teams either do it themselves and say, hey, guess what? This is what we know. This is what we've seen. You're going to sit. And if you're a senior and you're going to miss a playoff game, that's tough. If you're an underclassman, it may not be as bad because you're going to have more opportunities. But now you've got this dark cloud hanging over your head because people are going to look at you differently because of the video and because of what they saw in this video. And this person may not be like that at all. They may be a 4.0 student. They may be, one of the best, but you can't do that.
Competition brings, how do I say this?
It brings out the worst in people.
I don't want to say the worst,
but meaning they do things that they normally don't do.
Is the word carnal?
Possibly.
No,
I mean,
it brings out. Okay, we are mammals. We're primates, right?
Right.
It literally
that animalistic.
It
behavior.
brings out our animalistic.
But there's a way that you can play the game,
of course,
and there's a way that you can hold yourself to a high standard. Listen, Massillon and McKinley are storied programs.
Yep.
We've seen the history. You go back through and you look at this rivalry as a whole. You look at my thing was I saw Tom McDaniel, former head coach of Canton McKinley, who's now in the High School Hall of Fame. He posted on social media, somebody had asked him his opinion of what transpired at Tom Benson on Saturday. He said he was disgusted. He said that it was something that he can't believe happened and that he hopes that it's a learning experience for not only the kids, the coaching staff, the community. We have to do better.
And what I'm telling you is there isn't a week that goes by that we don't get an inbox message about a fight that took place somewhere on another field. And
sports will do that.
But that was my point and what I was trying to communicate to our audience. In this situation, it's under such a big microscope because it's Massillon McKinley and it's literally a nationally recognized game. Okay. So for it to happen here, people go, oh, but what I'm saying is it happens all over the place. Now, does it make it okay? No. But my entire point in what I was trying to communicate over the weekend is that this is not an isolated incident where, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened. Okay. This is a culture of an environment in regards to sports, and more specifically in regards to the culture of football, because it's so aggressive. Okay.
Yeah.
And so all right. So let's real quick, let's see what the implications are. Right. So I went and I pulled up, we posted today the, all the pairings for all right. So McKinley,
you're spoiling, you're doing a little teaser here because Matt Magaw and I will be doing the 330 to go high school football show, high school playoff preview show tomorrow. So don't give up. Don't give up all of it.
I'm not giving up the goods, but just specifically, let's focus on these two teams. All right.
Yeah.
So McKinley
takes on Strongsville at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium.
They're Division I.
Yes.
Okay. So McKinley plays Strongsville. McKinley 7-3. Strongsville's 3-7. Obviously, it's what's the right word to use here? A lopsided matchup, most likely in terms of record. In terms of record, at least. Okay.
Potential,
in this scenario, though, if a couple kids were to get suspended, all right, it would not affect them as greatly as if they were removed for the entire playoffs.
A wise coach once told me, when you get into the playoffs, the record that you had during the regular season means jack squat. You're going in 0-0 and you're playing for your life because it's win or go home.
You're right. I agree with that. Oh, I will agree with that. Okay. Massillon 10-0 is playing Grove City 4-6. Okay.
Yep.
So
Massillon's
again,
they're
number
seed,
one.
correct?
They're number 1 seed, 6, and they're 16. which how did Hoban? Okay, Hoban's a 1. All right, okay. All right.
Hoban's not a 1 seed if Massillon's a 1 seed.
No, in the region. So that it's by region, right? So Hoban's in region 5, Massillon's in region 7.
Okay.
Okay. So Hoban is a 1 playing us. Hoban plays Elliott. It's just
well, all right, you're giving away too much. No more. Stop.
All right. So point being, if these kids were to get suspended, I would everybody's gonna punt on this. You know it. Everybody's gonna punt. They're gonna, if they do suspend these kids, it'll be 1 game, right?
Potentially, yeah. We don't know.
And the point is, it's that first game of the playoffs, and it's basically they're doing it against what would be considered. I didn't want to use the term lesser, because those are kids playing hard, fighting for their playoff lives too.
It's just a playoff seeding anyway.
Yeah,
so
you understand what I'm saying. All right. So point being, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is here, because again, it's a community-wide thing.
Here's what I'll tell you. I think the solution lies within each program, and it lies with the coaching staff. If you want to send a message that you're not going to tolerate that type of behavior, you do something about it. Sometimes there's more to life than winning. This is a debacle where Massillon and McKinley made national news for the wrong reasons. Instead of talking about the game, everybody's talking about the fight and what happened in the stands and what happened in the parking lot and how there was pepper spray used and all of these things. They're not talking about Massillon's hard-fought win where they looked really good. 35-0. They looked really good. They threw the ball well. They ran the ball well. Their defense was outstanding. They're not talking about that. They're only talking about what transpired after the game.
All right. To that point, there was a lady commenter that I was hardcore going back and forth with. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't know what is in the mind of people when they make a comment, right?
Right.
It's possible that I may have taken her thing out of context. Hold on. Magaw's now watching this and is starting to heckle me. Bro, come on.
I don't see any comments at all. So
I don't, Magaw, I fixed myself. I didn't mean lesser opponent. I meant not.
No, it's nice that he can comment.
Not as
join,
as good a record. Not as good
fine.
a record opponent.
That's okay. Matt and I will talk about this a little bit too, probably tomorrow.
Me and this lady were going back and forth hard. And I was really pushing back hard because I'm like football fights happen all the time. It's possible I may have taken her comments out of context, and it's possible she was maybe referring to the whole environment in terms of the fights that were taking place in the stands and in the parking lot and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So to that lady, if she's watching, I'll apologize if that was the case. Okay.
Yeah. It was I got my son and we left very quickly. There was a fight that broke out probably 2 feet from where our seats were. A couple was taking on another couple. One was from Massillon, one was from McKinley. And, when I don't know if alcohol is involved in that regard. I don't know if it's fans just being, a little cocky, whatever. But there's ways to handle yourself. Do you want to know where these kids are learning it? They're watching it transpire in the stands when fans don't walk away and they want to fight back.
Did you ever attend any Browns and Steelers games?
Absolutely.
In the 80s?
Absolutely. I was in Three Rivers Stadium wearing Browns gear. I had beer poured on me. I was called horrible things. But guess what? I lived to fight another day. I didn't throw a punch and I didn't retaliate.
I wore Indians gear to Wrigley.
Yeah.
and the Indians weren't even playing. I was just there I want to go to a Cubs game, to be in Chicago just to see what a Cubs game was like. This was 1998 or 9 or whatever. And people were mad at me just wearing Indians gear to Wrigley.
Because they want you to support their home team. And I get that. And again, it goes back to what you said. It's sports, and sports bring out some crazy in people, and that's never going to change. I'm interested to see how Massillon and McKinley recover from this, because it's a cloud that's not going to go away today. It's not going to go away tomorrow, because now that there's video proof and now that there's social media, this kind of lives forever. It depends on how they handle it. Now, if McKinley goes in on Friday night and they handle stuff in-house and you've got some players that aren't playing because they participated in what happened on Saturday, okay. If Massillon does the same thing, they still win and move on, okay. I'm going to put the ball in the coach's court, and I'm going to say, these are your teams. You're the head coach for a reason. Handle your business. It doesn't need to be public. We don't need to know about it. Handle it in-house, and that's that. And we can move on to the next story.
Do you think social media amplifies this stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Without beyond a shadow of a doubt.
So
the fact that you can pull your phone out and hit live, and you're on social media and you're showing people exactly what's happening at that exact moment at that exact time, and people can see it with their own eyes.
So we know this stuff's been going on for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you think it's worse now, or do you think it's just this? I think it was it Will Smith? Will Smith who said these things have been going on for years. It's just now they're being filmed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And bad example.
They're now
bad example since
he's
light. Mr. Slap.
Right. But I'm saying, I think he's dead on. I mean, now that people have phones and they have cameras and all sorts of things. Oh, hold on a second. I heard a ding. Matt is in the building.
Man. Oh, come on. What'd you say?
Matt Magaw has joined.
Everything was cool, and now it's not.
I said 8. It shouldn't be. I said 8, and we go around Mike's busy schedule.
When Mike gets up at 3:45 in the morning, he can take control. Apparently. So.
I have a football over my head now. Can we get?
I'm going to move it. Yep. Give me a second.
I mean, I'm not good looking, but I'm not that bad looking.
You're getting.
How about that? Does that work?
Hey, that's perfect, because that is actually
it's right over Matt's
protecting
bald
me from the shine of his head.
Well, Matt, thank you for joining us. Obviously, we're talking about the happenings from the Massillon and McKinley game on Saturday, which was our game of the week.
Exactly.
And I know that you and I talked a little bit on Saturday. I know you weren't at the game. You were getting updates from me as they kind of happened, and Hank was telling us, his thoughts and feelings. Oh wait, he's calling a timeout.
First of all, we're back in the kitchen with Matt again. We're not making waffles this time. All right, so
we're gonna make pancakes or a smoothie or something.
All right, so the two of us have.
Said 8. This is why I said 8.
Well, it's fine. We're about to. I did tease and let everybody know that you and I will be back together tomorrow. And we are going to break down the Ohio high school football playoffs and go through
hopefully we have a good time, and we're not going whenever.
We'll talk about the time at tomorrow, and we'll figure it out.
I think honestly,
Mr. Magaw. We have both said a lot on this now. You saw some of my takes over the weekend. I went really hard in after this. Okay, so right now we're gonna do the whole shut up and listen. So it's your floor. I really want to hear. I really want to hear what you have to say about.
If I'm going to talk about that, if I actually get.
Hey Matt, I can actually mute Hank's mic so he can't talk anymore.
I'm going to do it right. My own mute. All right. We want to hear what you have to say about not only the game and all the stuff surrounding, but also my takes too, and Mike's takes as well.
The game itself, I don't even think you need to really even discuss it. I think that the great part about being able to talk about this tonight is you have two passionate fan bases. It's very tough to be able to put yourself in the shoes of a kid who is 15 to 18 years old, who has been bred to just dislike. And I'm using it as such a nice word for a community 8 miles down the road. So as you see those kids walking through the line at the end, you got to think to yourself, some of those kids from McKinley are about to potentially endure 363 days of losing to Massillon again, and in a tough fashion for that matter. And 8 times, there you go, 8 times. So you add all that on, and no offense, St. V, when I was there, we lost 3 times. We won my freshman year, and then we went on a losing streak. And I think that losing streak continued for like 2 or 3 years after I graduated. So St. V's at 7. And in no way, shape, or form do I think St. V in Hoban is remotely even close to how passionate the fan base is for this game. It's not even comparable because kids are born with McKinley blankets and Massillon blankets. We're not fighting over Knights and Irish, in Akron. So I think you take that into consideration first and foremost. I told Mike, man, the media, I was mad about the media, and we're media. I saw grown adults running around videoing it. And to me, I know instantly you can't tell any grown person, hey, go grab that kid, stop that fight. Because first of all, they don't work at the school. Second of all, they're there on credentials. That's not the right place. But I don't know if I'm videoing. Does that make sense? Like, I think I'm probably moving away or I don't know. It just seemed like the rock stars entered the group and let's go get a video of it. And it's sad because it displays a side of McKinley and Massillon that isn't the greatest, but there's a ton of passion behind it. And I feel going out to that because I know, most of the people that aren't Massillon fans are like, oh, how great. That's what it is down there. No, Massillon's reason you dislike Massillon is because they're established. They're a powerhouse. They do things right, and they get highlighted on negative things way up here instantly that other schools get nothing at times. So now it does sound like I'm a Massillon homer. But the same goes for McKinley. Coach Hall, I thought after the interview with him was amazing. I think the best thing about his comment was when that media person said, what was going on with the stands was absolutely ridiculous. He goes, I'm not worried about the stands. I'm worried about right here on the field. So you can't tell me that he doesn't have – his message was to act like that. So emotion took over, and, maybe there was some parents yelling from the stands during the game, don't take that and this, that, and the other. You don't know how that goes as well because parents – I'm a parent. I have a kid who plays. We're the worst. We're the worst because we're passionate. We want our kids to be in winning, successful programs. So it's almost like you get what you get because you put that energy and effort into it. So I have a different take. I was disappointed in the media, obviously disappointed to see that happen at that kind of level and heightened.
Hold on, real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's one of the hardest things for me to differentiate when I'm out in a live scene, like when I'm covering a fire or when I'm covering a protest or when I'm covering things that are potentially some of the yucky parts of humanity, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, like what am I going to show versus when am I going to just turn the camera away, right? And that's hard, especially. And now think about it. Now you're dealing with kids. Now you're talking about media releases, and now you're talking about a kid that could potentially be being recruited by a college program because these are two big programs. Yeah. And you got Rutgers and Ohio State and Purdue and Iowa looking at this kid, and now you got footage of him like getting in what I call a scuffle.
Yep.
And then it becomes and then they begin to question his character and all of that. So
like tackling Baker Mayfield by the police when he's running drunk.
Yes. Yeah, you 100% have that. There's a lot, and that's why when I talked with Mike on Saturday, I was my son had some friends and they were coming over, and all of a sudden someone messages me about it, and Mike had called and I hadn't been able to get in touch with him yet. And as soon as they told me, like, did you hear about McKinley Mass? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh my God, that's probably why he was calling me. So I called Mike and I was like, Mike, do we want to talk about this? Like, talk about it, not show clips, not do any of that, not try to do exactly what we just said is that hard part is the media's. How do you present this in the right way? And Mike, to his credit, was like, no, we need to let it sit for a day. And I think that was the right call. And this is a great platform to be able to talk about it, because I guarantee you in some way, shape, or form between three heads right now, three talking heads, we touched on probably a lot of people's at least general opinions and thoughts towards it. But you're not, you're not going to convince some people. And, there was some comments made and I saw them and I'm just like, come on, people, we got to be better. That's tough. But, people are people, man, so everyone makes mistakes. And I think that's what it comes down to. But I feel bad for the communities because I know how much energy went into that game.
We had to kick 2 people off the network because they turned it into like a racial thing.
Well, you've kicked me off the network.
Well, not you deserved it at the time. I'm talking about these people like turned it into like all this stuff that it wasn't. And when we, especially when social media, Mike brought this up. Okay.
Yeah.
Comment sections in general go off the rails very quickly. And we literally get to see people have like psychotic break episodes like online. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, back away from the keyboard and just look at this holistically and look at the big picture. And when I was posting what I was posting over the weekend, about the fights and about, that fighting happens is, people were like just losing their freaking mind. And at the end of the day, I don't know what the solution is because the cat's out of the toothpaste is out of the tube at this point, right? Like we can't reverse the effects of social media and the way that people feel obligated to have a voice where they're just screaming at the top of their lungs the worst things at other people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, we're seeing this all from like the point where me and Mike have done a high school football show the whole year, and we try to be as respectful as we can about every single one of those kids, and Mike goes down there, not necessarily to cover it, but to go as a family outing. I mean, all week he's like, oh man, I'm going to this game because I was going to try to make it, but I ended up getting, I was at a swim meet. That's why I didn't go to the game. But Mike was like, I'm taking my son. So, and then I talked to him and he's like, Matt, I could hear the perception that through Mike's voice at the time. You weren't just looking at it as a talking head. You were looking at it as a father who essentially was saying, son, I'm about to show you one of the best high school rivalries in the country. So that's what hurts for me is that's a nice claim to fame for Northeastern Ohio because those 2 schools highlight so many other schools. How many players show up because they're playing against Massillon or McKinley in those games? So now that stigma, I just hope that it kind of gets cleared up by OHSA. If it does at all, I think the schools probably will sanction something themselves.
I'm guessing 1 game suspension, right?
Yeah, I mean,
1,
and
2.
we just talked about that, right? They both are very highly ranked in terms of in their region and division, right? Yeah. So they're playing. And I use the word lesser, and you scolded me.
Have you ever coached? Have you ever coached any sport ever?
Of course I have.
Okay.
Of course I have. For 15, actually 16 years.
Perfect.
Yeah. And soccer. Now, mind you, soccer is different from football. Okay.
Here, if a kid didn't show up to practice when they're young, I get it. All the way up to like 6th grade. You get into middle school, 7th and 8th grade. A kid doesn't practice during that week. Do you think that there is a sanctioned repercussion for that choice?
Sure.
They probably don't play.
We dealt with it. How do I say this without giving away the information? We dealt with it this year in a program that I'm very closely affiliated to, where some students elected to skip a game day tournament situation, and they did it for social reasons. Okay. And then they were held accountable. All right. So I got a question. I got a question from a viewer right now that I'm going to pose it to you. So I'll kind of, Mike, I'll take the lead role here, and I'll do the host thing, and then I'll let the 2 of you respond. All right, here we go. This is from Annette. And it says, I think the biggest thing right now is holding each team accountable for their actions. Neither team was innocent, and it's frustrating trying to see so many fingers being pointed in different directions instead of holding the players. She said holding accountability, so I'm not sure who she's saying. So what, both of you go ahead and respond to that.
Sure. So to Annette, I will say this. If you go back and listen to Coach Antonio Hall of Canton McKinley's post-game interview with several media outlets. He took ownership of what Canton McKinley did on the field.
Yeah.
He said it in a way, you could tell he was frustrated. You could tell he was angry. You could tell that he had all of those emotions going through him. But what he said was, we will take what happens to us. He didn't try to put the blame on Massillon. He didn't put the blames on the ref or the refs, media, nothing. He said, what we did out there was not Canton McKinley football. And whatever happens to us, we deserve. That's accountability right there.
Yes.
I've yet to hear anything from Coach Nate Moore. I'm not saying that hasn't happened. I haven't seen it yet. And I would love to hear what he has to say about it as well. Because Matt, you and I interviewed him, and you could tell that these two, Coach Hall, Coach Moore, are very passionate about their teams. They're passionate about this rivalry. And I will guarantee you, neither one of them wanted this to happen on Saturday.
Yeah, there's, without a doubt, there's no way that they would even want to even dream of this in a nightmare. You know, like that's not what they want to do. I get what she's saying, because, you know, I think the accountability piece goes back to obviously the initial, but why? Like, I mean, it's not like, hey, son, I need you to go out there and play a full 4 quarters and lose. And then at the end, I need you to start an argument and a fight. And they didn't go with intentions for that.
So Matt, Annette actually responded. She said, I respect him for his statement. I was more talking about fans, spectators, and community members. Amen to that. Everybody acted a fool.
If you're bringing a gun to a football game,
not great.
You got a problem. I don't give a SHIT if you've got your conceal and carry and your, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care what you think your personal responsibility is on this planet when it comes to protecting civilians around you. If you bring a gun into a football game, you got a problem.
I want to know how they got the gun past the metal detectors that everybody had to walk through in order to get into the game. That's what I'd like to know, because there were metal detectors at every single entrance of that stadium.
If that story gets out, and you know it's true.
It is true. You see, there's video footage that shows it.
Okay, I haven't seen that, and that's
look on Twitter or look on
Matt. So my friend texted me this. Okay, now again, you missed a part earlier.
Yeah,
you missed a part earlier. And that was where it was. The one thing I said is this is one of those games where men that are not affiliated with anything go to watch this football game because they're just football fans. Okay. In other words, they've never had a kid in the program. They don't have a kid in the program now. They never had a kid in school, but they don't care. They go to watch the football game. Right.
Yeah.
So this applies to my friend here. All right. He said that was probably my last Massillon McKinley game. There were all kinds of drunk people in the parking lots that were fighting between both teams. There were fighting between Massillon and McKinley fans. There was fighting between McKinley and McKinley fans. He said McKinley fans were spitting on the Massillon kids as they were leaving the field. And he said there were people brandishing guns all over the place. It was just a crazy environment.
Yeah. When you have to pepper spray folks and you have to contact paramedics and that to get people medical attention because they were knocked out in the parking lot or in the stands because of a fight, that's not okay. No, never. It is never okay.
So how did this happen? How are we in 2023? Okay. And we've gone from the 80s fun, let's beat each other up and laugh about it, Hope and St. V environment, to the 2023. This is what we're dealing with now.
I think,
how did this happen?
I think you have a volatile situation where McKinley was very frustrated at the way they played that game. Mm-hmm. Massillon played well. And I think 7 consecutive years that now is 8 consecutive years where Massillon has beaten McKinley. I think all of that kind of begins to fester. And you're like, we need to beat Massillon. We have to beat Massillon. We can't lose again. Not for an 8th straight year. Like, we need to win and win and win and win.
kids on the other side that don't want to be seniors that lose.
They don't want to be that team that loses. Hey, we've won 7 years in a row. We got to go for 8. We got to go for 10.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all of it. It is a cocktail for disaster. And that's exactly what we saw.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot to be added to it. I just think that you're going to see a drastic change at high school events.
Yeah. Look at what Euclid did in Cleveland. They've played 2 home games with 0 fans.
Exactly.
Is that what we're going to get to now?
I at what point did we get where one side's on one side and one side's on the other? Do we not do that anymore? Like,
yeah, but you got the tailgating
at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. When you logged on to the Canton City School District website to buy tickets for the game, you have the visitor section, you have McKinley's section, and then you have other seats that you can pick and choose from. Guess what? I was on the McKinley side of the field. That's where I purchased my tickets. I wanted a 50-yard line seat. I didn't want to sit on the visitor side. I wanted to sit on the home side because I wanted a better view of the field. However, in my section, Massillon folks behind me, Massillon folks to the right of me, Massillon folks to the left of me, Massillon folks in front of me, because they're looking at it as a ticket sale. They're not looking at it as a whole going, well, hold on, we only need to have them on this side and you guys on this side. They don't look at it that way. In that gigantic stadium, they don't.
What did I just cover last year? Was it Hope and St. V where the railing fell over? Right? Remember the railing fell over? They thought it was a gunshot.
Yeah.
that was
yes. You guys were up. Magaw, you were up in a box somewhere, right? You were there. Weren't you there?
I think I was.
Yeah. Okay. So the point is, that was InfoCision Stadium. That was at Akron U.
Yeah.
They had them separated. Hoban's on this side, Savvy's on this side. So I guess
I don't know how you
here too.
If you're going on a website to buy a ticket, why is there an option? You should have to. How are they going to?
They did it with the students this year at the Hoban Walsh game. They had certain color bracelets, at least for the students, telling the students so they could quickly identify. We're talking adults,
right? How are you going to tell somebody where they can and can't sit at a football stadium?
I mean, it's not hard.
How do you? I understand that, but how can? So if I'm going on the Canton McKinley website, you're saying that I should only be allowed to buy Canton McKinley tickets, and then if I go on Massillon's website, I should only be able to buy Massillon tickets.
Pretty much.
For it. If you go and you sign up, Mike, you went there. You don't have a room to either school besides maybe Massillon, because they basically are how green got their colors to begin with, right? So
we're the Green Bulldogs, and
can we just have a green? Did we just have a green mention? We did. We just said we were green into this.
Listen to you. If you're a parent or a spectator and you really are a Tiger fan or a Bulldog fan, and you're going to the other side, come on, like that's like you're signing up.
So now that addresses the question that Canton and Massillon and all the home schools that are doing these games, maybe they need to do a better job of looking at who's sitting where, and maybe this stuff doesn't happen.
No, but that's why I'm asking you guys, because this doesn't make any sense to me, because it's been like this for decades, where you had a visitor side and a home side. That was, I mean.
So
what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Annette responded, "My daughter's in the McKinley band. Massillon fans were sitting on the band.
No,
I'm sure
she meant to say spitting.
And they were spitting on them, throwing hot dogs at them. And to hear what these adults were saying about the kids on the field, I agree that the fans in the stands are completely disgusting from both sides. Absolutely, everybody was acting a fool. If you're spitting on a child, anybody under the age of 18 is a child, you're spitting on a child, what is that saying about you as a person?
Hey, to add to that, you just paid $4.75 for a hot dog. What the hell are you doing throwing the hot dog?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
For the sake of putting a silver line on this, let's say
let's talk about the price of the hot dog.
What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Why are you wasting that?
It obviously, hopefully, this instance, what happened at Canton McKinley, raises eyebrows and it creates awareness, and now people can go forth and fix this.
Like
so
what
that
you
we
guys
don't have to have this conversation again anytime soon.
Like what you guys said, right? This is a national. This isn't like a little. I'm gonna say this. I shouldn't say this, but somebody was like, "I've never seen a fight at the Fairlawn and Tuslaw game." I'm like, bro.
I was there. I didn't see any fights.
I'm like, I'm like, you're comparing Fairlawn and Tuslaw to Massillon and McKinley. Like, what? I'm like, what are we doing here? All right. So
I'm sure is just as passionate down there, but in no way, shape, or form is it multiplied like
on a national level.
No,
right?
like
the birthplace of football.
That's why that game is better than the St. Hoban. Like I know that we almost that game would pack InfoCision, and Akron U really wasn't. That was the most packed game of the year. If you put Massillon McKinley there, it's
like could you imagine if they met in the playoffs? I mean, they're in different divisions, obviously. But I mean, could you?
Yeah. Thanks for putting that into motion. You can go down and cover that one. Please give me a coin toss.
So
anyway, we're falling off the rails here. We've reached an hour here that we've been talking about.
I mean, hey, we've only had Matt around for 20 minutes. So all right, put a ball on it.
Yeah, hopefully I think this falls on the communities of the football teams. We got to do better. We got to be better. We got to act better. This can't happen. This can't make national news. We can't continue to have this stuff happen.
And at the same time, I'm going to say this again on the record, like I've been saying all weekend. Football is a aggressive and violent game. Emotions spill over, and occasionally there are scuffles on the field, and that happens. And that needs to be, it's part of the game. It always has been, and needs to be addressed and understood. But at the same time, it can't spill over to the fans and the stands and the parking lots. Okay, which it does, right? Okay, that's my whole take on this whole thing.
Yeah,
football players are going to get into it on the field. That's what they do. They are. We literally. Matt, I've said this on 5 posts.
I got a lot of penalties in high school.
It's all about like the most aggressive, the most violent, the most controlled violent. Now I'll use that word, controlled violence. The guys that hit the hardest are the ones that go on to the next level. They really are, right? And that's what football is, and we understand it, and that's why we love it. That's why there's Friday Night Lights, and we embrace it, and it's just a thing across America. But at the end of the day, it can't go on in the stands. And that's where the line is got to be. And the parking lot. Street, right. Those are the lines. You're going to have scuffles on the field. You're going to. That's the nature of the game. And for that, those players will be disciplined, and they'll be penalized, and they'll be punished and all that. But you can't have that behavior go on past the line of scrimmage.
There's not much more to say. You guys, you did a nice job of wrapping that up. I think we have difference of opinions, I think, all three of us on it, but I think consensus is got to do better as spectators, as setting an example. Somewhere along the lines in the last few years, us parents have made these kids in high school believe that these next 4 years are for eternity. And I get it. I talk about the glory days of football with my buddies, of those 5 plays I got in on varsity, my whole senior year. But it is what it is. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, you want kids to see big picture. And the big picture is growing up to be a viable person that is in their community trying to give back, opening doors for people. So we set examples, and kids pick up on that stuff. So I hope, and I pray that this doesn't give anybody an idea as we enter the first week of the playoffs, because we know around week 3, week 4, it's going to get some heated matchups because, you start getting down to the, final 8, and you start breaking out of your regions. And Division I, Division II, all these divisions have some really star-studded high schools, and you're going to see it. So hopefully we just do better and it ends with a good, postseason. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Guys, I got one last thought for the both of you.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I'm going to be 50. I'm turning 50 next year. All right.
Oh, it's a party?
Now, hold on. This is for both of you. Look at this is me at 49. So take it in, boys. Take it in, baby. Look at that. Full head of hair, baby.
This right here is by choice because
do you remember
bald is beautiful.
No,
Done.
Mike, we just talked about how we got to be better and we got to set good examples. And
Heisman pose.
50-year-old man making fun of two middle-aged guys that are bald.
Here's the thing. It didn't bother me.
Hold on.
I guarantee you he has the most misshaped
Ken
head.
Carmen, champions pose.
I guarantee you he's got like an indent right there.
Maybe. I don't know.
Ego could fill in,
Love you both. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks, Hank. Thanks for joining us, Matt. Thanks for hopping on once again. You are watching the 330 To Go High School Football Show on the record as we discuss the Massillon McKinley recap. Join Matt and I. We'll be going over the 2023 Ohio High School Athletic Association playoff picture. Until then, be good, behave, let's do better. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.